Okay. Baruch Shechianu V'Kivonu V'Yigonu Lazman Hazeh. As we start a new Masechet, Masechet Chagiga. Chagiga literally means Chag, or like a festival. Today it's used in the word of Chagiga, as in a party. In Chagiga, bli 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 uga. You've heard such songs. So Chagiga actually means a Chag, right? The holiday, the Yom Tov. And the introduction really you need to know for this Masechet is a couple of things. Number one, it's the Masechet's about being Oil L'Regel, which means Aliyat L'Regel, going up to Yerushalayim, going up to the Harabait, going into the Azara on the three Chagim. As the Pasuk in Shemot tells us, Shalosh Pa'amim Bashana, Yira'eh Kol Zechurecha El Penei Ha'adon Amunai. 3 times a year, all the men should appear in front of our Master Hashem. Okay, and the 3 Yom Tovim are Pesach, Shavuot, V'Sukkot. We have a mitzvah to show up in the Azara, right? Now, when the people come, they bring korbanot. We're going to see, they bring at a minimum 2 korbanot, and they can bring a third one related to the Chag, and they can also bring other korbanot that they have throughout the year, korban hatat, korban whatever it is they have to bring, they can bring it as well when they're being oil regel. What are the 3 korbanot, or the 2 minimum that come? That's the basic package everybody has to come with when they come up. So there is one that's called the oilat ri'ah, the olah that you bring when you're showing up at the Azara. So that's the number one. Number one is olat ri'ah. This everybody brings up, and this is what's in olah. Olah, we know, is something that goes up completely on the mizbeach, right? It's completely to Hashem. It's completely to the mizbeach. The next one, and this is where our Masecha gets its name, is the Shalmei Chagiga. This is what we know as the Chagiga Korban. Many of us on Seder night, for example, we say Zeicher leKorban Chagiga, right? So that's what we're saying, the Shalmei Chagiga. This was a sacrifice that did not go up entirely on the Mizbeach, right? Rather, it was eaten by the people as well, people who were bringing it. And then sometimes you have a big family. Sometimes you have a lot of people. And one korban will not be enough. So you would bring what's known as the Shalmei Simcha. As it says in Pasuk, V'samachta b'chagecha v'hayita ach sameach. You have to be b'simcha. Ein simcha el b'basar v'yayin. You have no simcha el b'yayin b'basar. You have to have it with meat. And so sometimes you would bring a Shalmei Simcha. Now, if your korban chagiga had enough meat on its own for everybody there, you did not have to bring a Shalmei Simcha. A Shalmei Chagiga would be enough. So now, before we even start the Mishnah, how do we view the mitzvah? So we know there's a mitzvah to come up, and we know there's a mitzvah to bring a korban. Are those 2 mitzvot intertwined, and meaning there's really one mitzvah? Or is it 2 separate mitzvot? In fact, the Tosfot, I think it's the second, or let me see, the first or second, the first Tosfot in the Gemara, in this parak, in this Masechet, tells us there's a Yerushalmi, there's a Gemara Yerushalmi that understands the 2 mitzvot of bringing up the korban and coming up yourself as 2 separate mitzvot. Meaning, if I come up to the Azara without, or I come up to the courtyard in the temple without a korban, I still do the mitzvah of being oil regel, coming up. Whereas the Rambam, based on the Bavli, the Rambam says, and I'll read the Rambam's lashon. The Rambam says, "Misha baba azara b'yom rishon v'lo havi oila." Someone shows up in the azara on the first day, and he does not bring the oila. Loy dai shlo asa mitzvahs aseh. It's not enough that he didn't do the mitzvahs aseh of showing up. Ela oiver aloy taseh. He's also over on a negative commandment. Shneimar, it says, Lo yir'u panai rekam. Don't show up empty-handed. Okay? So if you're showing up empty-handed, you didn't do the asay, and you're going against the lota asay. So the Rambam clearly understands it as being one law, one being one halacha, one mitzvah. You're coming up with the olat riyah, right? And you think about it. There's in society we have a norm also in our communities where we say we're not going to show up to someone's house empty-handed. We come with something. We come with the wine. We come with the chocolate. We come with the food, the salad, whatever it is. You don't want to show up empty-handed. So imagine a guy showing up to the Beit HaMikdash, Hashem's palace, and he's got nothing. I'm here. You're like, shkoyach, thank you. No. So the Rambam understands it being as one mitzvah, and you show up with the korbanot. Okay, so that really is the main introduction to the Masechet, and now we can begin our first Mishnah, b'simana tova, with a good siman. We start Masechet Chagiga. The Mishnah starts off, Hakol hayavin b'ri'ah. Everybody is mechuyev in showing up, right? The first thing in life is to show up. If you don't show up, you can't even start, right? Like Shlomo Melech in Mishlei says, the guy doesn't go to yeshiva, doesn't go to midrash because he's worried about the lion in the street and lion in the house, lion next to the door, right? So he just stays in his bed, right? The first thing to do is show up. So everyone has to show up. Everyone has to be seen in the Azara. So now comes the Mishnah to tell us who is excluded. This Mishnah is written in Loizu Avzu. Not only this, but this one also. So it's going to build up on those who are exempt. So let's start. Chutz mecherish, shoteh vekatan. Except for mecherish, shoyte, and a katan. Cherish usually in the Talmud means, when you say today cherish, usually mean a deaf person. Well, cherish also in the Talmud meant deaf and mute. He can't hear and he can't talk. Okay, he's a cherish, means he can't hear and he can't talk. There is a case in Maseches Megillah where the Gemara uses the lashon cherish about he cannot read the Megillah for everybody, and there must mean that he could talk, because otherwise, what's the story that you're saying he can't read it, right? If he can't talk, so cherish sometimes understood as just deaf, but usually it's understood as deaf and mute. And shoita, this is someone who is a deranged person. Okay, so his mind is not of sound intelligence, right? Sometimes we define it as someone who doesn't know. You give him something expensive, he throws it away, right? And he doesn't take care of it. You give him something cheap, he thinks it's expensive. Like his mind is not straight. We're not giving a halachic definition of shaita at the moment, but the idea of all these is, and a katan, is that they're all, right? Look at Rashi, the lav b'nei da'a ninhu ufotirin mitzvot. Since they don't have sound intelligence, they are not mechuyev in mitzvot. Mitzvot only give it to people who have minds, who have who can do them. And these people lack that intelligence. They're not mechuyev in going up to be oil regel. The next case, the next one who is potter. This is a tumtum. A tumtum, at least the way the art scroll explains it, is someone whose genitalia is covered by a membrane. Okay, meaning we don't know what his gender is, what their person's gender is. Note 4 in the article 2A1. This is a person whose genitalia are covered by membrane, so his sex cannot be ascertained. Okay, and then the next one, so if he's not, if we don't know he's a man, he doesn't have a chiyuv to go up, because the pasuk said, what is the pasuk that we first saw? We started. It says, Kol zechurecha, all the males. Well, if he's not a male, he's not mechuyev. The next one, androgynos, right? An androgynos. This is someone who has both male and female genitalia. So we don't know what he is, right? He's not this, he's not that. Interesting. The Rashbam says that the word androgynos comes from the Greek language. Andro, right? Andro, that's like everybody's Android phone or Android thing. You have a little picture of a robot man, right? That's what an android is. But an andro is male in Yavanit, in Greek. And ginus, that means female. So androgynos means male, female. We don't know what he is, right? He has both simanim. So, potter, because he's not a real man. But noshim, and woman va'avodim. Nashim, women are potter, they're not men. Va'avodim she'enam meshuchararim, who are not freed. Right? Why do you have to add on not freed? So we're going to see later on. We're going to see hopefully today why it added on that. Now, why is it saying Nashim va'avodim in plural, whereas Cherish Shaitu v'Katan, it said it in singular form. One Cherish, one Katan. Nashim va'avodim uses as a Lashon Rabim, a plural language. Why is that? So Tferes Yisrael wants to say that's because there's many Nashim va'avodim. But Cherish Shaitu v'Katan, Cherish v'Shaita at least, there's very little of them. There, one here, one there. Katan, we're going to see, because not all katanim are actually potter. We're going to see many of the katanim are going to be mechuyev because of chinuch, of educating them, and therefore they're going to be, the parents are going to be obligated to bring them up. Okay, hachiger, this is somebody who is, he has foot issues. He can't walk on his feet. Okay, so he can't get up to the, he can't walk up the mountain. Can't walk up the Harabayit, right? V'hasuma, someone who is blind. V'hachole, and someone who is sick. V'hazaken, and someone who is old. Mishen yachol la'alot b'raglav, and someone who cannot get up there with his feet. So we have here, it started off, those who don't have knowledge, so they're not chayv mitzvos. Then the women of the avodim who are potter from mitzvos zman groma. And then we had before the Nashim we had those who are not men. Then we had Nashim Avodim, right? Not men, not obligated as men. And then we have those who are physically incapable of coming up to the Mishkan. Now it said someone who has feet problem. Then it says Misha and Yochel La'alot B'Raglav, right? Someone who can't get up on his feet. So what does this add on? So says over here. Says over here in the Masifta, they add on is Avshenu Higer. This is Kegon Shu Adam Mefuna. The guy cannot walk without slippers, and he cannot walk on the Harabai. You cannot walk without. We can't walk with slippers. So this is a guy. He's very sensitive. He can't walk without slippers, and he walks on the Harabai. You cannot walk with slippers. Patur. You don't have to come up because you can't physically do it. Okay. It continues the Gemara. Even though we said a katan is patur, but ezu katan, which katan is patur? You still have the mitzvah of chinuch, the mitzvah of teaching children, right? We had it in Parshas Emor. Tell the kahanim, you act one way, so the children can see and they can be and learn from that. So you have to do chinuch, the ezu katan. Says the Academy of Shammai say any kid who can't hold on to his father as his father climbs the mountain, that's the one who doesn't have to come. But if he can hold on to his father, and while his father climbs the mountain, then he's obligated to bring that child with him. It's interesting. The child has to be able to hold on to the father, not that the father can hold the child. Right? Because he can hold it. You can hold a week old, or you can hold a day old. You can hold him. No, so the child has to be able to hold on to the father. That's the way it seems from Beit Shammai, and then he'll bring him up. Beit Hillel Omrim, and Beit Hillel says, no. Says Beit Hillel, we don't go by the child. We don't go by the child carrying, holding on to the father's shoulders. Rather, we go by, can he hold on to his father's hand while they walk up the Harabayit? Why? Because the pasuk says shalosh regalim tahogli b'shana. Regalim, we saying means festivals, but regalim also means regal, means a foot. It means you're supposed to come up on foot on the Harabayit. So rak v'katan yochel alot b'raglav. So the Beit Hillel says, so if the child can hold on to the shoulders, but he can't walk up himself or can't walk up the Harabayit, then that child will be potter. Okay. So just briefly, remember we said as a machloket, if you show up, is it one mitzvah showing up and wants to bring the carbon, or the mitzvahs are intertwined? The Rambam told them intertwined. So bringing up the child, does the child have a mitzvah chinuch of bringing a carbon also for himself, or not? All right. So would the Rambam say the child have to bring also as al chinuch, or no? The child is just showing up and he's with his father's carbon. Okay, interesting look at that. Okay, it ends the Mishnah. The Shammai Oimrim, right? Karban olat hariyah, the hariyah, the karban hariyah, so the one that goes up entirely to Hashem. Shtei chesef, it needs to be shtei meot kesef, which is shalish dinars. Okay, it's a certain amount of money, and the chagiga, it can't be less than ma'a kesef, one of this coin. So it seems to be that the Chagiga could be a little less expensive than the Olat Riyah, right? So really, the Torah doesn't say how much the value of the Korban should be. But the Chachamim seem they put a value there because, you don't want to go on vacation and take cheap out on the hotel or whatever it is, and you're going to not enjoy your time. When you're coming up to be Ola Regel, you have to really enjoy it. Has to be Samachta B'Chagecha. And so you have to have a carbon of substantial value. And so they gave it a certain amount. Pasuk just says, Ish Kematnat Yado, right? As much as Hashem gave him, as what he can give. Chacham said, listen, we don't want you to cheap out, so they give a certain minimum. Bet Hillel switches it around. He says, Hadi Ada Ola Ma'al Kesef. Right? And the Chagiga, Stay Kesef. Yeah, it's worth, you have to have double the value, right? So one is 1 and one is 2. So why are they arguing and how much? The Gemara, Be'ezat Hashem, later on will explain the difference why Beit Shammai is saying spend more money on the Olat Riyah, whereas Beit Hillel is saying spend more money on the Hagigah. Okay. Now we're starting the Gemara. We're going to do one piece of Gemara, then we're going to call it a day. So let's take a look at the Gemara. The Gemara says, Hakol la tuye mai. He started off the Mishnah, Hakol hayavin. Everybody is hayavin. Usually when you say Hakol, you're coming to add something. So who else are you adding? La tuye, you're coming to add mi shehetzu ever hetzu bechorin. Someone who is half an Eved and half a free person. How did this happen? Either he was an Eved that 2 people bought, right? 2 or more people bought, or he was an Eved to 1 person, and then this person died, and he came now an Eved to his children. So they all have a chelik in this Eved. Okay, so let's say one partner freed his servant, and he's half free, and he's half servant. So says the Gemara, that's what it's coming to include. So even though he's a half Eved, he also has a mitzvah of riyah, of coming up to the Mikdash. But the Gemara says, he's potter from riyah. If someone's chatzi evan chatzi ben chayrin, he does not have to come to the Mikdash. And where did Ravina get this? He got it because the Mishnah said avadim she'enim mishchararim, avadim who are not freed, and he is. That means freed legamre, completely freed, and he's not completely freed, so he's potter. The Mishnah said so. So hakol la'ituyimai. So according to Ravina, what does hakol come to include? La'ituyah higeh b'yom rishon. All right, when pashet b'yom sheni. The guy was sick on his feet the first day of the Yom Tov. All right, you have to show up b'hag rishon on the first day. That's when you bring the korbanot. That's when everything's supposed to happen on the first day. But the guy was sick on the first day. The hag now is 7 days. Sukkot, Shavuot, Pesach is 6. You have a whole week. So when a call says that call hayavin, everybody's chayav, means even the guy who couldn't make it on the first day because his feet were lame, he was sick on his feet, whatever it was, he was sick, he couldn't get. The next day he healed up, and now he can come. So he's also hayav to come on the second day. The Gemara says, "Ha nicha lamanda oimer kulan tashlumun zelazeh ela lamanda ama kulan tashlumun rishon hakol atu emai." The Gemara says, 1 second. This idea that the guy who was not hayav to come on the first day, and now he gets better on the second day, he has to show up, that's not according to everybody. The whole idea of coming on the other days, it's what's called tashlumin, making up. I didn't bring the korbanot on the first day, So I bring the korbanot on the second day. But who? Who could be the one who can do tashlumin? There's a machloket. According to some opinions, is what no matter you weren't in the Azara, you weren't in Yerushalayim, you weren't there yet, but you didn't do it on the first day. You can still do it on the next days, right? Even though you're not mechuyev, you didn't have an obligation on the first day. All the days are able for you to come and do it. But according to the other opinion, it's a tashlumin of the first day, meaning only if you're mechuyev on the first day, then you can make it up on the other days. But if you weren't mechuyev, you weren't obligated to bring it on the first day, then you cannot bring it on the other days. So when you told me this guy was sick on the first day and now the second day he got better and he has to come up, that's only according to the opinion that holds that every day is independent and every day you can make it up on every day. But according to the other opinion that says only if you're obligated on the first day can you bring it up on the other days, then it's not true. Then what does that call come to add? Says it's coming to include the man who is blind in one eye. Okay, the Mishnah told us a suma is patur from going up. What about if he's blind in one eye? So that's what I call comes to include. Or Tana, and it's not like this Tana. It's not like another Tana, right? So the Mishnah is written by the Tanaim. So one Tana can argue with another Tana. One rabbi of the Mishnah period can argue with another rabbi of the Mishnah period. And it's not like this one opinion. The Tanya, we had a bright Yochanan Midahavai Omer Mishum Rabbi Yehuda. Yochanan Midahavai said the name of Yehuda. Suma Bahamina Patur Min Hariyah. A blind person in one eye is Patur Min Hariyah. Shnema Yireh Yireh. Kederach Shabba Lirot Kach Ba Liraot. Ma Lirot B'Shtei Einav Af Liraot B'Shtei Einav. Says as follows. The pasuk says Yireh Kol Zechurecha, or all the males should be seen. It can be read seen and to see. So the Gemara is Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai said the name of Yehuda. This is the way to darshan it. The same way Hashem comes and He sees us. He sees us with Enei, with His eyes. Hashem has total vision. He has good vision. He's not missing an eye. Right? He doesn't have any eyes, but He can see clearly. Right? He has vision. So too, the person who's coming has to be with full vision, meaning he has two eyes. And here, this guy only has one eye. Therefore, he's going to be patur. So it's not like this rabbi who says it's patur. Our latuyemai comes to include, our hakol comes to include a summa be'achad. Lehalacha. Lehalacha, the Rambam brings, the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai in the name of Yehuda, that a blind person in one eye, says the Rambam, one who is blind, even in one eye, is exempt in the midst of a parent in the temple, and according to the opinion of Yochanan ben Dahavai. So the interesting, what would make a difference? He had one eye, he had two eyes. The guy shows up. So the Kurtan Samagat says an interesting idea. When you come to the temple on the Shoshel Galim, you have to have two eyes. One eye has to be looking at HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The other eye has to look at the loneliness of us. But you need to have both eyes. Because if you look too low at yourself, you're going to think you're nobody, you're not going to do anything. Hey, Hashem doesn't care about me. But you need to have that eye also on Hashem and how great He is. And at the same time, if you just have the great eye, you would say, Hashem is so great, and Hashem loves me, and I'm the best, and I can do whatever I want. It doesn't work. You have to have a combination of eyes. And like we said many times, it says ayin hara, ayin ra, the bad eye, evil eye. It says marat ayin, right? Someone will see something wrong, right? All the time they use the word ayin, one eye, but we have two eyes. And why doesn't it say einayim, einayim haraim? Why is it saying ayin hara? So Rav Rosner would say, because if a person really looked with two eyes, he would not see bad things. He would always somehow see everything in a good light. And it's only because he's looking with one eye, she's in a bad way. So you have to really look with two eyes. And therefore, the halacha is, the guy who's blind with one eye does not come up to, he does not have to, he's potter from coming up to do the yirah, to go be seen by Hashem in the Mikdash on the holiday. Then the Gemara ends off, if you want to say another answer, L'olam kedamre me'ikara. It's like we originally said. Kasha lach hadaravina, or the kasha lach hadaravina, like kasha. And the question that you said from Ravina said, but why? It says only freed slaves can go, and not partial slaves. So what do we do to this? Loy kasha. Kan Commissioner Rishono. Kan Commissioner Achroina. It depends. There was a first teaching, and then there was a later teaching. According to the later teaching, the man who's half a slave, half a free man, will have to come up. What's this talking about? We have the Gemara in Gittin, Mishnah in Gittin. Someone who's half a Evan, half free. Oh, and Rabbi Yom Echad. That's why Yom Echad. Dividend Beit Hillel. Beit Hillel says one day this Evan works for himself, and one day he works for his master. So this way, you're not going to mix up which money is which. I work him one day, he works for me the other day, and everybody in Shalom Yisrael. David Beit Hillel. Amr Lahem Beit Shammai. Beit Shammai said, "Tikante midrabo." You fixed up the money issue, right? His master has his money, and he has his own money. Very nice. One day, one day. But you didn't fix up this Evan himself. Why? Lisashimha. How is he going to get married? How is he going to have kids? To marry a female slave in Yachol, he can't because he's free. And being with a female to be with a female slave, it's going to be considered a promiscuous relationship as asur. And bat horin, to marry a free Jewish girl in Yachol because he's half an evet. So li batel, you don't want him to get married at all. Cat can't be. Man is not a man until he gets married and stays married, right? And he has to have children. He can't be bottling. The world was made. Wasn't the world created for to reproduce? Shneimar, as it's brought down in the pasuk in Yeshaya. Why we went to Yeshaya, not just use Bereshit where it says pruvu, but perhaps the goyim don't have or Ever doesn't have that mitzvah. But let's see. It says in the pasuk, the world wasn't created to be sitting and desolate and nothing there. It's you have to build, you have to have children. So says Bet Shemai, because you can't do anything about this case. You can't marry this, you can't marry that. So what do we do? We force his master, the other part, and we make him free. And he has to write a star for half of his value that he owes to the master that's going to free him, that he's going to pay him. We don't want him to lose out financially. In the end, Bet Hillel agreed to Bet Shammai and said, you have to free the half a slave. In fact, the Rambam says, even if they're 10, right? He says, no matter how many masters there are, let's say they're 10, for an example, and one freed, we force all of them now to free this slave so he can get married. The tikkun ha'olam, right? Society needs father, mother, children, grandparents, grandchildren. Society, rules, laws, and stuff like that. So now, when we said hakol, and it came to include chatzi eved, chatzi ben chorin, Ravina said, can't be. He's not free. That's right. That's when Beit Hillel originally said their law of one day works for himself, one day works for them, so he's not free. But when Beit Hillel changed and said, like Beit Shammai, you're right, you have to let him free. But since he's going to be free, he's already mechuy. So he's going to be loimer. So let's see. Alpha P Zeh Yesh the Asher is the Bishas Shel Fis Service Beit Hillel. Betchil Shav is Rabbi Yom Echad Yarei Hu Chetzio Eved Vatum Minaria. Chazar zu Nekat Tana Abd Mishan Min Churim. Loimer Sha'av Chetzio Eved Potter. Ach le'achar shehodio shekoifim misav hashach l'harei hu nichshav mishchorar. He's already considered. V'av shelo nishchare adayin, even though he's not yet freed. Kivan should be a din l'shcharo et reshut v'arbo alav. Since we can force his master to free him, ve'enu nichshav k'mi sheish lo shnei adonim shepatum min hari'ah. Right? He's not considered. He has two masters. He only has one master. Right? So another reason why an Eved can't go up, we forgot to mention it, it says, El Adon, right? You should appear in front of your master, Hashem. And it means someone only has one master. But this guy has another master. So therefore he's patur the Eved. But now we said we can force him out, even when it's chatzi. Since we can force him out, he's considered as if he's freed. And he has to go up and to do the Ri'ah. Just one more comment. Earlier we said, Hashem comes to the Migdash and he sees the people, b'shtei with his two eyes. And the question really is, when Hashem comes, isn't Hashem Shechina in the Migdash all the time? And the answer they give is yes, Hashem is there all the time, but there is a intensification, more and more of the shina that comes during the Chagim when everybody shows up into the Azara. All right, this is the first year in Masechet Chagiga. Shem should give us a schut to finish the entire Masechet in a good timing and in good health and briyut lekulam. Shavua tov.